Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a genuinely radical proposal today. We're talking about completely dismantling and rebuilding modern corporate culture from the ground up. It's a massive paradigm shift that challenges how we fundamentally define our workforce, basically completely reevaluating human capital. It's this fascinating philosophical approach that flips traditional management theories entirely upside down. So let's just jump right in.
Right off the bat, I want you to ask yourself and really think about your own organization for a second. Are your company's employees workers or are they researchers? That single, incredibly powerful question is the core conflict and really the ultimate solution of everything we're exploring today. Think about it. Is your workplace just a spot where people mechanically trade their time for a paycheck? Or is it this dynamic space for continuous exploration, problem solving, and growth? Keep that distinction in the back of your mind as we go.
Now, the source material argues that historically, a leader's growth relies on two very different types of guides, the strategist and the teacher. For decades, companies have leaned heavily on strategists, right? These are the folks who provide cutthroat tactics, eliminate competitors, and drive explosive, massive growth. But here's the catch. The argument is that today's massive corporations are actually in crisis. And why is that? Because they are completely missing the teacher. They lack the guide who provides the real wisdom and harmony needed to actually operate those massive empires the strategists built.
And just to be super clear, we aren't talking about your high school math teacher here. Modern corporate leaders already have all the money, the political power, and the top-tier technical experts they could ever want. What they genuinely lack is the deeper wisdom required to harmoniously manage thousands of human beings and give meaningful value back to society. So the teacher in this context is really a philosophical guide. They're the essential figure who ensures a leader's immense power and capital are actually pointed in the right direction, basically preventing a total operational disaster.
Viewing things through this philosophical lens, the source makes a highly provocative claim. They state that the term worker actually means a modern-day slave. Yeah, it's a really heavy statement. But the underlying argument is that reducing a human being to a mere laborer, someone who just mechanically trades hours strictly for basic survival, is a massive systemic failure. Regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, this is presented as a powerful critique of treating humans as disposable parts in a giant machine, while completely ignoring their potential for intellectual and spiritual growth. What's absolutely fascinating is how this rigid framework allegedly breeds what the source calls a worker mentality. Think about it. If you label someone a laborer, they adapt to that box. They work strictly for financial compensation. They do the absolute bare minimum required to just not get fired, and the very second they get paid, they aren't sitting around thinking about the company's future innovation. No, they're booking an escape flight to a beach in Hong Kong. The big takeaway here is that expecting genuine, autonomous dedication from someone you treat as a disposable laborer is just fundamentally impossible. And really, this brings us to why modern labor disputes have become so notoriously intense and gridlocked. The speaker posits that these ongoing strikes aren't just born out of pure selfishness. Instead, they're an inevitable, almost explosive backlash against a system that has kept people in an unguided, stagnant labor state for way too long. It's essentially an outcry demanding compensation for being treated like replaceable cogs. It's the ultimate side effect of a giant corporate machine that is completely devoid of a guiding philosophy for its people. Okay, so how do we actually break this cycle? Well, the source material offers a really concrete, radical solution. Completely abolish the concept and even the label of the laborer and transition the entire workforce into researchers. Whether someone is on the assembly line or sitting in the accounting department, this is a total paradigm shift. It's a proposal to rebuild the company as a unified space where every single employee is actively researching, thinking, and developing the organization together. There is a really stark contrast in identity and motivation when we compare these two systems. When you treat someone as a laborer, their core identity is exactly that, a worker. Their main motive is escape, and honestly, the expected outcome is almost always conflict. But treat them as a respected thinker, a researcher, and everything just flips. Their motivation shifts naturally toward deep work and internal growth, which leads to autonomous dedication. The core argument here is that simply changing the title and providing the foundational respect that comes with it can completely alter the soil of the entire organization. When we break down how this transition actually happens, it all kicks off with that identity shift. Once employees truly internalize that they are researchers, they stop mechanically working just for the money. They start deeply immersing themselves in their tasks as active research. This refocuses their drive, and it naturally fosters autonomous dedication and growth. And here's the real kicker. The speaker argues that in this new environment, the traditional management versus labor dynamic basically ceases to exist. because everyone is a researcher collaborating on a shared goal. Toxic union conflicts and labor disputes simply dissolve naturally.
Now, the key difference in making this actually work lies in how we view rewards. Give a laborer a massive financial bonus, and what happens? They'll probably clock out early, slack off, or plan their next big vacation. But researchers, they operate on a totally different wavelength. If you give a researcher massive financial backing and resources, they don't get lazy. They use those resources to launch an even bigger, more complex research project. So the reward shifts from being a mere tool for survival into this awesome virtuous cycle of trust, capacity, and larger challenges.
The speaker views this transition not just as some neat idea, but as a genuinely mandatory step in corporate evolution. It's framed in 3 generations. The first-generation founders set the initial path. The second generation used strategists to massively expand and accumulate wealth. And now we are standing right at the threshold of the third generation. It's no longer about just getting bigger. It's about using that gathered power wisely to operate on a global scale. But right now, so many corporations are bottlenecked precisely because they haven't made this crucial philosophical shift from expansion to wise operation.
So, if a company successfully escapes that worker mentality and genuinely embraces this autonomous research culture, what does that future actually look like? Honestly, it's pretty inspiring. A third-generation company isn't just a giant, soulless factory. Employees actually find joy in coming to work because it's a place of intellectual growth. The company moves far beyond just extracting labor to make billions. It earns genuine respect from society. It essentially becomes a shining global philosophical role model that actually helps guide humanity forward.
But let's snap back to reality for a second, because the current situation is harsh. The speaker uses a really brilliant analogy here, comparing modern corporate leaders to modern-day tribal chiefs. Sure, they look super glamorous on the outside, sitting on mountains of cash, but internally, they are secretly going crazy from the sheer frustration of not knowing how to actually lead their people. It's such a sharp, grounded insight. It really doesn't matter if your company is worth billions. All the money in the world cannot buy the hearts and minds of your workforce if your operational system is fundamentally broken.
To break out of this immense frustration, leaders desperately need that true guide we mentioned earlier. And interestingly, this guide isn't some magical genie who grants wishes for more wealth or, gets your kids into a top-tier college. A true guide is someone who will point out your flawed systems right to your face. They challenge the status quo to guide society toward a joyful, purposeful path. And the source notes that today, thanks to modern technology and media, these vital insights can be shared with leaders globally in real time, sparking widespread change.
Today, we've explored a truly radical philosophical shift, transforming our workplaces from a culture of disposable laborers to one of autonomous researchers. It's a complete reimagining of corporate identity. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If tomorrow morning your title was officially changed to researcher, and your company treated you not as a worker to be managed, but as an intellectual explorer to be respected, how would your commute change? How would your day look? Let that question simmer, and we'll see you in the next explainer.